The latest addition to the free agent market happens to be a former Luka Doncic teammate and a former Dallas Maverick, that player being Olivier Maxence Prosper, a first-round draft pick from the 2023 NBA Draft, a guy that once was thought to have two-way ability and potential two-way upside, but now becomes a free agent in only his third NBA season. And while I've seen a few of you commenting about him, asking if he would be a good pickup, if the Lakers should look to sign him to either their 15-man roster or potentially to a two-way contract, and if he might be a good option that now will hit the open market, possibly. If you're not aware, he does have to clear waivers yet, which he will officially do tomorrow evening. If he does, he's then available to sign with any team he wants to, which could potentially be a team like the Lakers. So with that in mind here, should they be a team that he looks to sign with? Should they be a team that tries to sign him? Again, for either a standard contract or potentially a two-way contract. We'll talk about that and directly address the question that many of you have been asking. And if you have any other questions, then be sure to leave them down below, as I might make an entire video about them like I'm doing with this one. So without further ado here, talking about Olivier Maxence Prosper and where all this is coming from. It is directly coming from Shams Charania, so yes, you can believe it. Him saying that the Mavericks are waiving former first-round draft pick Olivier Maxence Prosper and using the stretch provision on his contract, which, if you have no idea what that is and what that means for him, using the stretch provision allows them to waive Maxence Prosper, but rather than fully absorbing his $3 million contract on their cap this season, they're now extending it over a 3-year duration, meaning that they'll pay $1 million of it this season, another $1 million next season, and then for the final $1 million during the 2027-2028 NBA season. And while the benefit to that is for a team like the Mavericks who are pushing the second apron, that now gives them enough leeway below it to then be able to fill out their 15th spot, therefore replacing him, and they already have that candidate picked out, that player being Dante Exum. So that's the benefit for them and why they have waived Maxence Prosper, therefore kind of giving up on him and not believing that he could be a rotation player for their team or even a backup for their team in general. They've opted to waive him and therefore give up on their 2023 first-round draft pick. So with that being said, is he a good candidate for another team? Could he actually be a better fit for another team and potentially reach the potential that the Mavericks once thought he had? Maybe. Now, I definitely don't think it's simply a change of scenery that he needs. It's a little bit more than that. Yes, I think that might and probably would help him. Finding a team that actually gives him playing time and therefore actual NBA development time, that would probably help him out. And simply a team that believes in him again, I think that would also help him out. But we can't ignore the fact that he is a pretty raw offensive player yet, hasn't shown much and has quite a long ways to go yet before being an efficient and simply non-liability on offense in the NBA, especially for a contending team. In that regard, he does have a ways to go yet, and again, it simply won't be a change of scenery for him. It's got to be the right team and the team that is willing to work with him and potentially give him some time before giving up on him again. So in my opinion, not sure if that team would be the Lakers. Yes, if we're talking about a two-way contract, they can work with him, and it's not really a big commitment to him. Not like it's a 15-man roster spot that they're kind of relying on him to fill a role for their team potentially, at least being an injury replacement and a guy that they actually have to fill a 15-man roster spot with. It's a little bit different. Though even with that, it is kind of a commitment with it being their last two-way contract they have to offer. The other two currently being filled by Christian Koloko, being brought back for a second season with a two-way contract, and then newly acquired Chris Manning, him filling their other two-way contract, and therefore they have only one left to offer, which in my opinion might be better saved for an open competition during training camp. At this current moment, they have 5 guys under training camp contracts, including RJ Davis, Eric Dixon, Arthur Kluma, Augustus Marciulionis, and now Kyler Kelly, who they picked up earlier this week. So if we're talking about giving that two-way contract away and giving it to Olivier Maxence Prosper, I might actually be against that from simply that fact alone. Given that they have current training camp guys that are kind of signed to their team and with the idea that they might be competing for a two-way contract, that opportunity would then be taken away from them, which in my opinion might not be the best route for them to go. And unfortunately, I'm not sure that Olivier Maxence Prosper would take a training camp deal with them. I think he'll be looking for a roster spot first, then a two-way contract second, then at the absolute worst, and I really don't think he'll come to it for him, then maybe a training camp deal. So with that in mind here, I think it would take a two-way contract to sign him. I really doubt he'll get picked up via a 15-man roster spot. At that point, I think a team would have actually traded for him, which the Mavericks did try to do with him and unsuccessfully at that. So it probably will be with a two-way contract. So again, with that in mind here, should they give him one? pass up on their current training camp guys to do so? I guess that's up for debate, and let's talk about it. If you have no idea who he is and the kind of player that he is a 6'8" wing player that's mainly a power forward at this point. Throughout his time in the NBA playing 92 games so far, mainly garbage time and, really ladder rotation minutes at most when needed for an injury replacement. Up until this point, averaging 3.5 points per game, 2.2 rebounds per game, under 1 assist per game, shooting 39.6% from the field and 26% from beyond the arc. Not very good and not very efficient. Though if we look to his numbers in the G League, they definitely are a whole lot better. Didn't play in the G League last season. Primarily was a bench player for the Mavericks that they didn't really want to send down to the G League due to their constant injuries and not having much depth, but he did play in the G League during the 2023-24 NBA season, averaging roughly 18 points per game, 8 rebounds per game, 2 assists per game, 1 steal per game, and shooting a much more efficient 51% from the field and 42% from 3, which obviously looks a whole lot better for him. However, can we trust that over what he's shown in the NBA or maybe has not been able to show? That's definitely up for debate here. Pointing to what he has or has not done in the NBA so far, there's definitely a lot of concern with him. Obviously, why the Mavericks waived him and therefore gave up on him and bypassed him for a guy like Dante Exum. Obviously, plenty of concern here with Maxence Prosper. Number one simply being his shooting ability, or rather lack thereof again. Only a 26% career 3-point shooter so far, like I mentioned before. And unfortunately for him, he's not a better corner 3-point shooter. Pretty much identical to his 3-point percentage, is a 25.9% corner 3-point shooter so far. And if you're an off-ball wing player like himself, then you kind of have to be somewhat efficient from somewhere on the court that's not inside the 3-point line. And unfortunately for him, he's not been able to be that so far. Again, maybe there's hope with his G League numbers being better. Again, shooting a very impressive 42.5% in the G League during the 23-24 G League season, but he's simply not been able to translate that to the NBA. Not only that, but he's not been that efficient around the rim to make up for it. Even with his great athletic ability, and he is a very good athlete by the way, it's not been that great for him. But if you are willing to look past the inconsistent offense and up-and-down 3-point shooting, then there might be something here like with him on defense. After all, that's why the guy was drafted and why the Mavericks initially took a chance on Olivier Maxence Prosper. Really had nothing to do with offense. Even back in college was not a great offensive player or 3-point shooter. During his final year of college, only averaging about 12.5 points per game on a sub 34% 3-point shooting mark. Again, it really came down to defense and his overall frame and athletic ability too. With the guy being 6'8", having a near 7-foot wingspan, not to mention with a chiseled 230-pound frame to go with it, he does have the ideal build for a forward in today's NBA. With the athletic ability to add onto it, is definitely a prototypical defensive-minded player, a guy with the build for it and the build to defend possibly 1-4 and sometimes 1-5 in a small ball lineup. That's what he had to offer and still currently does have to offer too. Though up until this point has not even proven that much. If you care about defensive numbers like defensive box plus minus rating for example, does happen to have a negative 0.8 defensive BPM rating, that being during his NBA career. Yes, again, you can point to his G League numbers being a bit better, but I think it's more important to talk about what he's done in the NBA so far, not what he's done in the G League, as that's not the long-term outlook for him, or not what it should be. So in that regard, he does have potential, but has yet to even show it on defense. Obviously good moments with him and a whole lot better defensively than offensively, but even not that has shown through that much quite yet. And well, if you ask me, he still currently happens to be a project player at 23, something the Lakers already having guys like Bronny James, Dalton Knecht to a degree, now with Adu Thero, who he actually kind of does resemble, not to mention an older version of Adu Thero, a 6'8" player with a chiseled frame and great athletic ability, without a very reliable offensive game. So in my opinion, given that the Lakers already have one player like that, again with Adu Thero, who kind of fills that combo forward spot for their team that they're looking to currently develop, I'm not sure they really have room for another player like Olivier Maxence Prosper. Again, I think there definitely is upside here with him. I think if they could unlock it from him or any other team could unlock it with him, then there's a very good NBA player here with him. But with them already trying to do that with Adu Thero, working with Bronny, trying to work with Dalton Knecht, I'm not sure that there's another spot for Olivier Maxence Prosper, unfortunately. Again, I'd go back to their current training camp players. I'd be a bit more curious to see what a guy like Arthur Kaluma might have to offer. Is a bit closer to that 3-and-D option at this moment. Even a guy like Eric Dixon has something to offer that neither of their current two-way contracts have to offer, that being a lead scoring ability and true 3-level scoring ability, something that neither Christian Koloko nor Chris Mannon or even Olivier Maxence Prosper have to offer for that fact too. And I like to try to diversify the skill sets of the two-way contracts, not only by position but then by skill set too. And with Chris Mannon kind of being that defensive-minded but has a lot of work to do offensive player with a two-way contract, Koloko being a traditional center that's trying to add more to his offensive game, do we really want another offensive project like Olivier Maxence Prosper? Again, I think you might be able to make an argument for it, but maybe not the strongest argument for it. I'd rather go a different route, whether that's with their current training camp players, maybe with a guy that resembles a 3D option a bit better, somebody like a Jalen Bridges in my opinion. That's one of my favorite outside targets that's not currently affiliated with their team or their training camp roster, and I probably would pick a player like that over Olivier Maxence Prosper. Though don't get me wrong, I wouldn't be entirely against it. If they would pick him up via two-way contract and want to take a chance on him, I'd be okay with it. Again, a former first-round draft pick, a guy that definitely does have untapped potential yet, isn't particularly old despite him being in the NBA for a few years at this point. I wouldn't be entirely against it, but not my ideal route either. So with all of that being said here, what do you guys think? How do you feel about Olivier Maxence Prosper? And if the Lakers should or should not have any interest in him with a two-way contract? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this one. And if you enjoyed the video, then I would greatly appreciate it if you dropped a like, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and hit that notification bell to never miss out when I upload a video. But as always, thank you for watching and have a great day or night.